Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an honor and a privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining me here. And this is the afternoon show where it's just a bunch of friends standing around a virtual water cooler talking about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, a little bit of television stuff, a little bit of mixed martial arts, football, whatever it is you guys want to talk about. That's the great thing about Open Mic, is we can talk about anything at all. Okay, so the whole show today is going to be the questions you guys are sending in. Whole ton of you have already sent in questions, so let's not waste any time. Let's get right to it. And the first question today comes to us from Mike McHale, who writes, do you think J. Jonah Jameson character could work in this version of Spider-Man / MCU, since most news currently is digital and print / newspapers are dying? Well, I mean, that has been a growing trend for a long time, but the reality is the USA Today is still a thing. The New York Times is still a thing. The New York Post is still a thing. Like, all these major outlets are still things. Plus, they all have web presences now. So here's the thing. Even if, like, print were to disappear tomorrow, the New York Times, New York Post, all that kind of stuff is still there. It would still need an editor-in-chief. It would still need somebody in charge that oversees the whole operation. So the J. Jonah character is applicable whether they're still putting out paper. Like, look, the Daily Bugle would still be a thing. Whether the Daily Bugle is, just exclusively published on the web, or whether it's put out on physical paper, it's still the Daily Bugle. It still has its reporters and its editors and its editor-in-chief. So, yes. And the fact of the matter is, we're not there yet where newspapers aren't a real thing anymore. They're still very real. So, yes, it would work today, and yes, it would work 5 years from now, because they'd still need an editor-in-chief, and that would still be J. Jonah. So, yes, I believe J. Jonah could work perfectly. Good question, though, Mike. Next one comes to us from ZOMG Ruler, who writes, think the DCEU would have been okay if they made a good Batman movie after Man of Steel before Batman vs. Superman, which it doesn't matter. The DC, it doesn't matter. Batman vs. Superman still would have been the same movie. And everything else would have been the same. I mean, you can say, would the DCU have been okay if they just made Batman vs. Superman better so that more people liked it? Yes. Would the DCU been okay if they made a Wonder Twins movie after Man of Steel and it was good? Yes. I mean, so you can do all this speculation, whatever, all you want, but the reality is, it is what it is. Just having a good Batman movie after Man of Steel wouldn't have changed, unless you're saying then completely change Batman vs. Superman, that completely change Suicide Squad, that completely change everything else that comes after it. Unless you're saying that, then it's kind of a pointless discussion, to be honest with you. It really doesn't have any connection to it. Curtis Lopez writes, in The Shining, do you think the hotel owner was in on it the whole time and just hired caretakers to be victims for ghosts? How do you explain a coincidental accident with every caretaker? Probably. I remember thinking about that, I think the second or third time I saw The Shining, and thinking about, well, the people got to be in on it. Like, they can't not, the owner of that place can't be unaware that these horrible, terrible things are happening in their place. So I have a feeling, yes, they're in on it. How do you just keep hiding that? Hey, guy goes crazy. Guy goes missing. Guy disappears. Guy gets attacked by a bear. I mean, there's lots of different ways you could hide that sort of thing. So I don't think that's the biggest issue for the movie to face, to be honest with you. But it is a question about one of the most all-time classic movies that not a lot of people ask. I think it's a good question to bring up. Ben Rayner writes, breaking. Bruce on Gotham going to get an iron suit, going to become Iron Bat Jr. No kidding. I'm just waiting for that to happen, because they're going to give him some kind of Batman suit, which is just ridiculous, without actually being Batman. Ben then follows up, but seriously, did you like the last Black Lightning and Krypton? Haven't seen them yet. I very rarely, even shows I watch, like Black Lightning, Lucifer, whatever, I very rarely watch them as they're broadcast. I usually watch them the next day. Like either on, the CW app or on Hulu or something like that. I usually watch them the next day. I don't usually watch them live. Even though I do have YouTube TV, so I could watch them live if I wanted to, but it's so 1991 to have to be at home, available and free the minute and the hour that show is on. It's a passé way of doing things. So, no, and since I'm not doing like recap shows of them, I don't have to watch them live as they air, so I usually watch them the next day. So, no, not seen Black Lightning yet, which just aired last night, and I haven't seen the second episode of Krypton yet, but I'm very anxious to get to both. Let's see. Matt Thornton writes, with all the talks on what will happen to Leia in Star Wars Episode 9, I think we can all agree that no matter what Disney do, they won't be able to please everyone. Oh, no kidding. No kidding. Forgive the sound, guys. I just turned a fan on. Sorry, it's getting a little bit warm in here. That's something I mentioned the other day. That unfortunately, there aren't more people who see the clear common sense of recasting Leia. There just aren't enough people who do. There are still a lot of people out there who think very backwards. I'm just picking on them. Who think very backwards, thinking completely ass backwards about it, and would rather just throw away this Princess Leia character that Carrie Fisher spent decades giving to us and just discard her, throw her away, just have her die off camera or something without bringing the character to its true narrative conclusion. But whatever. There are a bunch of backwards thinking people in the world. It's all a matter of opinion. But what is clear is that there is a division amongst people like myself who think the right way, that they need to recast Leia, and a bunch of people who think the wrong way, that they need to write Leia out and not recast her. But the fact of the matter is that Disney is in a no-win. There's no winning this situation. There is no win here. And I think the only thing that will bring the two sides together and make the two sides okay with it I've said this publicly and I'll still say it. I completely believe they need to recast Leia, but if Carrie Fisher's daughter comes out and she says, I don't want them recasting my mom, which I don't think she will. But if she did, then that ends the discussion. It doesn't matter how strongly I think about it. If Carrie Fisher's daughter comes out and says it, then I'm like, okay, then no more argument out of me. You're the most direct relative. You are the closest family. And if you don't want to see that happen, then I'm going to be quiet. And I think a lot of people on the other side as well, who don't want to see Leia recast, I think they would think the same way if, like, Carrie Fisher's daughter came out and said, my mom would want us to finish the Leia character. They would want us to take this character across the finish line. I think my mom would want us to recast. Then I feel pretty good that most people on the other side of the debate would be like me as well and go, okay then, if Carrie Fisher's daughter says it's cool, then let's do it. So I think that's the one thing that would bring both sides together on this is, I'll say right now, if Carrie Fisher's daughter comes out and says, don't want to recast, then I'll go, okay, then that settles the argument. No more argument. That's it. And I think people on the other side would be the same way. I think if Carrie Fisher's daughter came out and officially said, we do want this, we want to see Leia brought to her true story conclusion. We don't want to just cut Leia off. Then I think everybody on the other side would go, okay. But if they don't, if Carrie Fisher's daughter doesn't do that, then you're right. No matter what Disney does, it's going to make a whole lot of people unhappy. Either people like, and I don't think they're going to recast. So I think I'm going to be very unhappy. So either me and everybody who thinks like me is going to be really unhappy, or the people who think the opposite of me are going to be very unhappy. It's a no-win situation for Disney unless Carrie Fisher's daughter comes out and make a statement, in which case I think all of us can come together and rally around and agree upon that whatever she wants is good with the rest of us. So anyway, there's that. Okay, let's move on. Rodrigo Ortiz writes, when Keanu Reeves' career is all said and done, will he be remembered for Neo or John Wick? Also, I can't believe he's in his mid-50s. Yeah, no kidding. That dude has sacrificed some virgin puppies and drank their blood over a satanic altar. Because it's crazy that dude's in his mid-50s. It's absolutely nuts. To me, it's no question. It's Matrix. Easily Matrix. Like not many people, outside of those of us who inhabit these online film fan communities, not a lot of people have seen the John Wick movies. The Matrix was a cultural paradigm shift. I mean, everybody knows the Matrix. Not everybody knows John Wick. So yeah, when it's all said and done, and I'm not saying which one I prefer over the other. I'm just saying when it's all said and done, it's pretty clear the thing he'll be remembered probably most for is the Matrix. That and Bill and Ted. So I think both of those he'll be remembered for over John Wick, unless John Wick 3 comes out as a huge box office smash and, becomes another pop cultural paradigm shift, which I don't see happening. But otherwise, definitely Matrix. Abraham Asaf writes, Star Wars pod race or Ready Player One race? Pod race. And I'm the prequel hater. But I have always said just because I hate the prequels, there are a couple of things in them that I think were done very well. Obviously, the Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Darth Maul fight, I think is marvelous. But one of the best things, I think, in the prequels was the pod race. The pod race is awesome and was so revolutionary, so far ahead of its time, both from a sound design, the visual effects, but just the tension and the excitement of the race. I thought it was a brilliantly put together sequence. And I love that Ready Player One race scene. Love the Ready Player One race scene. But I will actually, maybe surprisingly, I'll take the pod race from Phantom Menace. I'll take the pod race from Phantom Menace. All right, next up. Anthony R. writes, was there a movie where you liked a secondary character more than the protagonist and they were killed off and you wish the protagonist died instead? Yeah, I know I can't pull, you know what? For some reason, I think there was one recently where something like that happened. Like maybe a part of me wishes that Killmonger, Michael B. Jordan's character, died and Claw lived, because I was loving the Claw character. Now, he was a secondary villain. I was loving that Claw character. I did not want him to die. But no, I'm sure it's happened a number of times. I know it's happened in a number of TV shows. So yeah, sometimes they do such a good job with the secondary character and get us so attached and loving that secondary character so much, we actually find that we end up preferring them over the main hero. Do me a favor, guys, if you can think of a couple of examples off the top of your head, jump into the comments section and let us know what you're thinking about some protagonists that actually stood out to you more than the main heroes of the film. All right. We move on now. Anthony R. writes, in an alternative world where Bruce Lee is alive, some people think he is alive. How much would you geek out if you found out he is playing a Jedi Master in a Steven Spielberg Star Wars film? Come on. I mean, yeah, that would be some pretty inappropriate adult imagery right there. But yes, like Bruce Lee was alive and was playing a Jedi Master in a Star Wars movie directed by Steven Spielberg. You've pretty much given me a hard-on for the next 4 hours. So thank you for causing that medical condition. The answer to that question is geeking out one hell of a lot. I'm actually feeling this overwhelming sense of joy washing over me just thinking about that possibility. Bruce Lee as a Jedi Master in a Star Wars film directed by Steven Spielberg. This is not much else to go. There's really not much else to do at that point. Okay, thank you for that imagery, Anthony. Next one comes to us from the number Thor, who writes, thoughts on the Dusk Till Dawn TV show? Never watched it. I think it was on the El Rey Network. I never had the El Rey Network. So I'm not saying anything bad about it. I've never watched it, so I really can't give any kind of an educated opinion on that. Adam Griffin writes, Variety just posted an article on 2017's 3D revenues being down 18% and was the lowest in 8 years. I personally only go 2D. Can 3D go away now, please? Yes, God, please. I mean, for those of you who've watched me for any period of time, you know my thoughts on 3D. It is a useless, stupid gimmick. 3D adds nothing to a movie. I admit there have been a couple movies. Like, I remember the first time I saw Avatar. I had to watch it on a 3D screen because that was the only screen they were playing it on. And I remember thinking, whoa, man, this is the first time I really think 3D is added to the movie. But then I watched Avatar again like a week later on a 2D screen. And it's like, oh no, I didn't enjoy this any less. So really, ultimately, it made no difference. Like, seriously, every time I go into a 3D movie, man, after about 2 minutes that the movie's on, all I want to do is take those stupid glasses off. I cannot stand it. And I think, hopefully, I mean, you're going to have to fight James Cameron tooth and nail on this, but oh my God, I want 3D to go away. Like, when they are able to put up screens where we don't have to put on glasses to watch 3D, and they're able to do really good 3D with new screens, whatever, I might be willing to give it another shot. But until that point, my opinion, and yours may be different, your opinion may be different, that's totally fine. I'm not dissing on your opinion. I'm just saying my opinion. My opinion is the death of 3D cannot come fast enough. Cannot come fast enough. It's such a useless gimmick and doesn't add anything to any movies I've ever seen at any rate. And I think the numbers are starting to show it. More and more people are like, oh, why would I watch this thing in 3D? It's the same movie, but pay extra money and put tinted film over my eyes. Yay, that sounds like a great idea. All right. Anthony R. writes, I'm a big Star Wars buff like you. Are you familiar with the 7 lightsaber combat forms, canon and legends? Do you think Rey will learn from them from the books? Well, The thing is, those books, if I remember right, and I might be remembering wrong, those books she got are like they are the original Jedi texts. And the Jedi have been around for a long time. Things like the seven fighting techniques may have evolved over centuries and centuries and centuries. I'm going to guess no. I don't think they're going to bring that into it at this point. So my big guess right now is no. It'll not be a part of the story moving forward, and they're not going to be in those books. Could be. Totally could be. But I don't think they will. If I had to venture a guess, I'm guessing no. Patrick Conway writes, is Bishop the guy with the big gun in X-Men Days of Future Past? Well, Bishop, I'm trying to remember which guy wielded a big gun. Bishop was in X-Men Days of Future Past. He's with Blink, and I think that was Warpath they had there. And of course, they were all there in that kind of hold-up castle when Professor X never shows up. Bishop was one of those guys. So the one guy with the black dude with the dreads, that was Bishop. That was supposed to be Bishop. I can't remember if he was holding a big gun or not, but that you probably know the guy we're talking about. Jedi Knight and friend to Captain Solo writes, yesterday I meant a good director could convince Warner Brothers to make Tomb Raider 2 since most people liked Alicia. She just needed a better movie around her. Well, no. In a case like this, it's not the director that would have to talk them into it. It's an accountant that would have to talk them into it. Because it doesn't matter if a lot of people liked Alicia Vikander in it. The fact of the matter is the movie did not get rave reviews from fans or the audience. They may have liked Alicia, and that's great, but it did not do well financially. You know, let me pull up the numbers here right now. Let's see, Tomb Raider. And this rendition of Tomb Raider, I mean, right now, it's made only $51 million domestically. It's made $247 million internationally, which means it hasn't quite broken even yet. So I don't see, it's not like, and I mentioned this before, if the critics and audience love Tomb Raider and it didn't do all that great financially, you could convince a studio to try it again because you can convince them more people will come this time. But considering they did the movie, and I thought it was pretty good, but that's about the most people are saying about it, is that it's pretty good. I mean, nobody's raving about it. Critically, nobody's raving about it from a fan point of view. And it barely breaks even. That's no director is going to convince a studio to do it at that point. You'd have to be able to convince a studio that they can make money on another one. And I mean, right now, there's just no material evidence to suggest if you do another one, more people will come out to it next time. There's no evidence there to support that. Now, we have also seen sometimes, rarely, but sometimes, studios make sequels to movies that you would think they would never make sequels to for the same reasons. So it has happened, but it's not going to be a director that convinces them to do it. It'd have to be a producer that convinces them to do it. Producer says, I've got a vision for this. And from a business point of view, because directors usually don't know squat about business, and from a business point of view, here's why it's going to make money. Then maybe it can happen, but I just don't see. Again, my big thing is, as an outside third party, just looking at the data, I don't see any material evidence that you could convince a studio head that if we make another one of these movies, it'll make more money and more people will come out. According to what? According to the box office of this one? No. According to the critical reviews of this one? Nope. According to the audience response to this one? No. So, according to the great success of video game movies? Nope. So there's just no evidence to go to a studio head and say, let's put up another $125 million, another $150 million, and make another one. It's a tall order, man. It's a tall order at this point. All right, let's go on now. The number Thor writes, do you think that in future, the big name cinemas will have VR screenings instead of 3D with VR goggles instead of those little 3D glasses? It's possible. Right now, I see so many people trying to make VR a big legitimate thing. It could become it. I still don't know anybody that has VR. I don't know anybody that has VR. I'm sure many people do. I'm just saying, I personally, out of all my friends, out of my family, I don't know a single person that's got VR or uses it on an ongoing regular basis. So it is not becoming the big thing I think they envisioned it so far. Could totally change. Could change overnight. It could become the next big thing tomorrow. Looking down the line, could VR become a theatrical experience where you go into the movie, you throw on the VR, and you experience the movie that way? It would be interesting to see experiments like that. You know, here's the thing. I don't even think I could form an opinion about that until I experienced a test run. You know what I'm saying? I think you'd have to do a test run. And if that test run works, then maybe you could see it. But I'd have to actually see it in action. How would that work? Personally, I think the better option is developing screens that can actually do 3D without the need for glasses. I think that's the most logical step. But it's definitely possible. Look, at the same time, VR may become obsolete in the next 2 or 3 years. Like even VR could become obsolete. So it's difficult to make a prediction that far down the line, but it's certainly possible. It is absolutely certainly possible. I know somebody once maybe put on a VR headset, and the VR headset made it feel like I was in a movie theater. There were seats around me and a screen on the wall, and then a movie came up on the movie screen. So it was like I was watching a movie in a movie theater. It was actually kind of a cool little experience. But again, it's difficult to say at this point. It's an interesting theory, though. Mitch Bitch writes, favorite Bill Hader role? Mine's Pineapple Express. Favorite Bill Hader role? You know, let me pull up his filmography here. Bill Hader. Oh, Skeleton Twins. I mean, that's less what we normally know him for, but Skeleton Twins was definitely great. Him as a leading man in Trainwreck. I thought he was really good in Trainwreck. You know what? And I haven't seen it yet. Everybody's telling me about this new TV show he's got, Barry. Everybody's talking about Barry. And it's funny because I never even heard of it. And then last week I was driving into Hollywood for a screening. And as you're getting onto Hollywood Boulevard, or Highland Avenue, right by Hollywood Boulevard, there's this big billboard for Barry. It's like, really? He's got a new show? And then all of a sudden, once I see that billboard, I hear everybody talking about this show. I have not seen it. Have you guys seen it? If so, jump in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think about that. Certainly didn't love him as the voice of Alpha 5 in the Power Rangers movie. He was in Popstar, Never Stopping. I love that movie. I don't even remember him in it. Let's see. You know, I'm going to go with the Skeleton Twins. It's such a different thing for him that I'm going to go with that one. So I'll say Skeleton Twins. Abraham Novello writes, least favorite marketing campaign for good movies. The one that jumps right to mind is, while Ready Player One's was not great, Edge of Tomorrow. Stop, repeat, cruise, repeat, death, one, repeat, 5. Whatever the name of that fucking movie is, however many times they've changed it. Live, die, repeat, rinse, cycle, repeat. Edge of Tomorrow. I mean, I didn't even know, did not have good expectations for that movie. And then I saw the movie. It's not until you see the movie to Edge of Tomorrow that you realize just how bad the marketing campaign was. Because that marketing campaign, not only did it not sell the movie, it was not selling the same movie. Like, even before seeing Edge of Tomorrow, you could tell this is not a good marketing campaign. It's not getting me excited to see the movie. But once you see the movie, then you fully realize just how bad of a marketing campaign it was, because it didn't sell on any of the great things about that movie. And that is a good damn movie. Edge of Tomorrow is a good damn movie. And that marketing campaign was just one of the most ass-awful things ever. This is not the end. Or whatever that stupid thing is. It's like, it's like trying to promote this, like, this mysterious psychic. No, it's a good Groundhog Day actioneer sci-fi film. And it could have been sold like that, and it could have done a lot better. But that is the biggest one to me about an awful marketing campaign for an otherwise very good movie. The number Thor writes, what's your favorite Star Trek Next Generation movie? I just answered that like the last 3 times. Mine is Insurrection, whatever one it is with the Borg Queen. That's my favorite one. I just feel like I've answered that one twice now in the last 2 days. This is my 3rd time. Anthony R. writes, in Phase 4, I hope we get more classic Spider-Man again. Classic suit. Fighting his villains in the city, the Daily Bugle, Power and Responsibility, etc. Oh, I've got a feeling we will. First of all, let's remember, the MCU and Sony deal only goes up until Spider-Man Homecoming 2. It's not going to be called Homecoming 2, but you know what I mean. The next standalone Spider-Man film is the last one of the deal. Spider-Man could be out of the MCU by the end of that film. It's unlikely. I think the partnership between Sony and Marvel here has just been too good. And I think, a lot of people want to give all the credit to Marvel for how good Homecoming came out. But I know for a fact, I've talked to enough people who are plugged into the movie, that Homecoming was really a byproduct of back and forth and cooperation and compromising between Sony and Marvel. And I think if either one of them got their own way, Homecoming wouldn't have been as good. And I think it was as good because it was a true amalgamation of the two different visions that Sony and Marvel brought to it, and they found a way to make a spectacular movie. No pun intended. So I would really, and I hope they realize that, and I really would love to see him stay in the MCU with that cooperation between Sony and Marvel. But there is a very real possibility here that next Spider-Man movie could be the last we see Spider-Man in there. Remember, the deal ends after that. So, not something we love to think about, but it is something we have to be prepared for. Again, I think cooler heads will prevail and they'll realize, oh yeah, this is working really well. And they just keep the deal going. Next up comes to us from Eric Blank, who writes, what's the best Spielberg movie he did not direct? I.e. Gremlins, Goonies, etc. Oh, I don't know. Now I'd have to pull up. Now I'm pulling up right now Steven Spielberg's producing credits. The problem is he's going to have 1,000 producing credits. Yeah, here it is. On his IMDb, he literally has, I'm not exaggerating, this isn't a joke, 168 films that list him as a producer. The problem is we will never know which of these films he was really heavily involved in and which films he just signed his name on to be a producer. I really don't know. So I just can't answer that. I have no idea. I'd have to really think about it. The first Transformers movie, maybe? I don't know. 168 films, so it's really difficult for me to say. Schiff722 writes, I saw an older vid that you play Magic the Gathering. Yes. What format do you play? Also, I suggest the anime Steins Gate if you haven't seen it. Never even heard of it, as a matter of fact. What format do I play? I don't know the difference between the formats. I just, mean and play. I've got my decks over there. I got my white and red deck. I've got here's what I got right now. I've got my all white deck and I've got a green red deck is what I've got. I stopped playing about 6, 7, 8 months ago when they introduced a bunch of new rules. Like, they introduced a new symbol like energy. I can't even remember what it was. I just remember thinking, okay, this just looks really dumb and I'm done. And I just stopped playing. So it's funny that you bring it up because Ann and I were just at a gaming shop recently. And we're like, we got to start playing again because Ann plays a lot of Magic. She loves playing Magic as well. So I'll probably pick it up again, but I couldn't even tell you what format. I just know I play Magic. I don't know what the format difference is. Let's see. Cobra writes, golden age for a comic book movie fan, but has it become a dark age for fans of other genres? No, not necessarily. Look, we're still getting some pretty half-decent sci-fi. We're still getting rom-coms, not as many as before. We're still getting, cop and murder mysteries and all that kind of stuff. The one thing we haven't seen a lot of, but this is true of the past 15 years, is we're not getting a lot of Westerns. We're getting a few Westerns, but not a lot. Look, the reality is this. Even if we have 8 major comic book movies coming out in a year, right? 8. That's 8 out of 300 major wide release films coming. That's nothing. That's nothing. That's a drop in the bucket. And all those other films belong to other genres. So I don't really think the only genre you can really say is kind of a dark time, because animation is really more of a medium than it is a genre, but you know what I'm saying. Animation's doing really well. A lot of different styles are doing really well. But this is the age of the comic book movie. Absolutely, for sure. But I don't think at the expense of other things either. Jake Osei writes, Infinity War, 2 hours and 36 minutes. Do you think it's too much or too little for a movie like this? I mean, number one, when we say a movie like this, we have to acknowledge that we don't know what we're talking about because we haven't seen the movie yet. You know, we may see the movie and it may feel the perfect length. We may see the movie and it may feel too long. We may see the movie and feel that it's too short. The only thing that gives me any, because look, contrary to popular belief, yes, there are some people out there, and maybe you think you're one of them, they'll go, oh, just make it as long as you want. I'm okay if it's a 4-hour movie. Yeah, well, that's not how it works for most film fans. Most people, like, they'll look at a runtime and say, 3 hours and 20 minutes, I'm out. And that's just the reality. A lot of people are like that. I think there are some rare exceptions, but I think 2.5 hours is, you're getting up to the upper limit of where I think you should go with it. My only question is, with so many characters in this movie, are they going to be able to have enough time and yet do them all justice? I have some concerns about that. I don't know. So we'll see. Again, absolutely impossible. Right now, I think the 2 hour and 30 minute range is a good target. You don't want to go too much beyond that. Is that enough time to cram in all these characters? I don't know. But then the answer isn't, will they make the film longer? The answer is, we'll take some of the characters out. Like, if some characters are only going to get 5 or 10 minutes of screen time anyway, just maybe take them out. But again, I don't know. I haven't seen the movie yet. They might do a perfect job of balancing it out, and 2 hours and 36 minutes is the perfect runtime, or it's too short, or it's too long. Just going to have to wait and see. It's going to be an interesting thing to see how they navigate that. Chris Martin writes, I didn't see this mentioned yesterday. We're finally getting Zootopia 2. Finally. I didn't hear about that. I mean, they said a long time ago they were going to do Zootopia 2. Actually, back in July of 2000, last July, the head of the studio, the animation company behind it, they said they were going to do it. I don't see any more new confirmation about that. No, I haven't seen any new confirmation about it, other than the news that came out in the middle of July. So in the middle of July, they mentioned there was things coming out talking about Zootopia 2. But that's about it. Let me just see if there's anything official. I mean, there's an IMDb page. That doesn't necessarily ever mean anything. But yeah, there's nothing much other than kind of a placeholder for it on IMDb too. So I'm not quite sure where you're hearing that it's been officially announced. I have not heard it officially announced. If you have, drop me a link to where you found that from. Let's see. Rodney Hurd writes, what do you think is the best iteration of Megatron and Optimus Prime? The original cartoon. I think the original cartoon is still the best iteration of them, especially if you're talking about them both as a package deal. I love the Optimus Prime iteration in the original in the first live action Transformers movie. I really like the Optimus Prime iteration. Could have been a little bit happier with the Megatron one, but it's still good. I love that first movie. But really, the original animated series is, to me, still the best iteration of them both. Chris Martin writes, have you seen The Lion King, the musical? I love the way they bring Mufasa back. It's like a backlighted wood board and the mouth moves. The effects in the show are amazing. I saw the Lion King Broadway show in Toronto 12 years ago. It was a long time ago. Maybe 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago, maybe 12 years ago I saw it. I was blown away by it. My favorite Disney adaptation live stage show was still Beauty and the Beast. That just blew my mind. But the way that, when all of a sudden down the aisles came the performers with like the animal heads on sticks and stuff like that, the way they expressed them being animals was really, really cool. And I enjoyed it a lot. So yeah, I love the show. Absolutely love that show. If you get a chance to see the live stage show of Lion King, by all means, take Chris Martin's advice. Go check it out. I think you'll be happy that you did. Let's see. Where'd we go here? Sorry, a whole bunch more of the questions came in. Oh gosh. Okay, there we go. Rodney Hurd writes, Black Panther versus Batman. Who wins? Batman wins. John Campea, because by nature you win. Yes. Hope you're having a good day. Thank you. That's one of the first shirts I gotta make. I'm John Campea. By nature I win. That's a good one. But yeah, if Black Panther versus Batman, unless it's a Marvel writer writing it, if anybody else on the planet's writing it, Batman wins. But yeah, Batman. It all depends on who the writer is. But again, anybody short of Jesus, Batman wins. If he beats Superman, he can beat Black Panther. All right. Rodney writes again, the boogeyman checks his closet for John Campea. That's one of the great John Wick lines, by the way. NPE94. Are you going to see You Were Never Really Here? Yes, I'm going to go see that. Hold a second. Let me see if I can, where my thing is. So Joaquin Phoenix's new one. It looks intriguing. It also looks like it could be a really pompous kind of movie. Not really sure. I haven't seen it yet. I know a bunch of people have had a chance to see it. I have not had the chance to see it yet, or at least wasn't available to see it when I had the chance to see it. I am going to watch it because it's Joaquin Phoenix, and when he's in just about anything, I'll check it out. But I will give it a check, and I'll probably mention it once I do. Austin Green writes, with Action Point coming out soon, and if it's successful, do you think another Jackass movie could be made anytime soon, or maybe another Bad Grandpa? I don't think another Jackass movie. I think the day for that has come and gone. Also, a lot of the guys in Jackass are really screwed up. I think if I'm remembering correctly, and I might not be remembering, but if I remember correctly, a lot of the Jackass guys were really screwed up people right now. And I could be thinking of something completely wrong, so maybe it's unfair of me to say that. But no, I don't think so. And look, let's face it. Action Point is not going to make $400 million at the box office. So it's not going to make the kind of money that necessitates them to rush out and do more things. It might make them do more of these, like blending a narrative scripted story with live action ridiculous stunts. I think it's really a neat thing that they're trying here. Blending the two. You know what? I forgot to get a soda for myself or a drink for myself, so my voice is starting to go. A lot of you guys ask me, why are you always drinking through the shows? Because I'm speaking for an hour straight. And my voice starts to go. I'm going to warn you guys right now, I might have to cut the show a little bit short today because I don't know how much more of my voice I got going. Bad Grandpa simply didn't do well enough. So it doesn't matter what Action Point does. It's not going to make them go back to Bad Grandpa. Let me just pull up the Bad Grandpa numbers here. Well, you know what? Bad Grandpa, it did better than, it did better than I thought. It made $151 million. That's not great, but it was on a $15 million budget. I remember I was in Las Vegas and I did the press junket for that. And I got to talk to Johnny Knoxville there in Vegas about that movie. So hey, $50 million budget, maybe that's not out of the question, but I honestly don't think Action Point's going to have anything to do with it. Adamus95 writes, Battle of the Five Armies to me is the most pointless installment in a trilogy. The first 20 minutes, in my opinion, should have been the end of the Desolation of Smog, and in my opinion, just ended there. I disagree with you, but here's where I think the problem lies with that. To me, where the problem was that the third installment of the Hobbit movie, of the Hobbit series, played like the third act of a movie. But that's a bad thing, because what you had was a movie and it was just all quote unquote payoff. It was just all climax and payoff. We had no development in that movie. Oh, but the development came in the other movie. Yeah, well, that was the other movie. This is this movie. You still need to have development, a beginning, a middle, and an end. You need to feel like you're bringing the audience with you on a journey in that individual movie. That's what Empire Strikes Back did. That's what Return of the Jedi did. That's what The Two Towers did. That's what, Last Crusade did. That's what sequels are supposed to do. They're still supposed to be the next chapter in a larger story, but they're still their own movie. And to me, while there was a lot of good things in that third installment, it failed overall as a movie because all it considered itself to be was the third act of the bigger story rather than making a beginning, middle, and end for this movie. And ultimately, it was just all payoff. Like, for example, when we finally see Oakenshield facing the white orc, there was no build up to that. Because it's been 2 years since we've seen these two characters on screen together. Yeah, we understood they have a history, but it was 2 years ago that we saw them on screen together. So here we have the payoff fight, but nothing at the beginning of the movie to set up the payoff fight. You see what I'm saying? Like, it was just all payoff, climax, conclusion, without anything else being in that movie as a beginning and as a middle. And that made the whole movie, while there's a lot of good stuff in it, it made the movie feel very out of balance to me. And that's always been my biggest criticism of that particular film, was it was all third act. The whole movie was third act. And it doesn't work like that. You just can't do it like that. Let's see. Chris Martin writes, you and Jeremy Johns are my favorite YouTubers. You guys are awesome. Well, thank you so much. Don't ever stop doing what you do. Please, you along with family and friends have helped me through some hard times. Well, that's the great thing about movies, Chris, and the great things about being film fans and having a film fan community, of which I'm lucky to be a part of it. You are a part of it. Everybody else watching the show right now is a part of it. Is that not only is being a film fan and being a part of these communities great distractions, because sometimes distractions is exactly what we need, because it gives our minds time to settle down, gain perspective, all that kind of stuff. But, also, like, it can be inspiring and fun and enjoyment. And it's just weird how all these things, community, fun, laughter, imagination, creativity, can help just readjust our perspective on other things. So I'm honored that you let me be a part of that. I'm sure everybody else in the film fan community right now is honored to be a part of that too. And I'm glad you're a part of the film fan community. Thank you for sharing that, Chris. All right. Ray Valera writes, Gio, thoughts on TV show called Grimm? I loved Grimm. I did not like the final season. The way they ended that show felt very forced and not very enjoyable. But up until the final season, I loved that show. And I remember thinking it was a dumb idea for a show. And then I watched the first few episodes and I'm like, yeah, this whole thing with the Vessem and the mythology of the Grimm and all that kind of stuff and voguing, and I really dug it. I actually thought it was a lot of fun. I had a good time with that show. I'm sorry that it's over, but it was a bad last season. The last season was bad. Let's see here. Styler Manu 1 writes, what was your favorite scene in Ready Player One? I love the main battle scene on Planet Doom that was featured in the trailers. That was great. I still think my favorite scene is either the race scene for the first key, or the nightclub scene where Artemis why am I forgetting his avatar name? Starts with a P. Anyway, where Artemis and the main guy, Wade is his real world name. Percival, thank you. Where Artemis and Percival go to that nightclub. I love that scene. It's really sweet, and I felt the chemistry between the characters, and it was a really great scene. But I'll still lean towards the race scene. The race scene is still my favorite scene in that movie. Alan Gonzalez writes, do you think we'll figure out the title of Avengers 4 at the end of Avengers 3? No. Somebody asked that. A couple people asked that earlier today, both on the John Campea show and in the companion video. I feel very strongly, this is just me speculating, by the way. No one's told me this, but they seem to be suggesting that the reason they're hiding the title for Avengers 4 is that the title of Avengers 4 would reveal a significant spoiler in Avengers 3. If that's the case, they're not going to put it in the end credit scene, because that means that spoiler is going to get out the first night the movie opens. I strongly feel, and I could be dead wrong about this, I'm not willing to put money on this, but I feel pretty confident that they're not going to reveal the title for Avengers 4 until the Infinity War is almost done its theatrical run. And, somebody else earlier mentioned that probably at San Diego Comic-Con, you know what? July, perfect. That's right around when Infinity War is going to be finishing its theatrical run. It's going to be wrapping up its run in theaters. Comic-Con, that's the time they probably reveal it. So I have a feeling they're going to reveal it right around Comic-Con, either at Comic-Con or right around Comic-Con, mid to late July. That's when I think they're going to reveal. I don't think they're going to reveal it anytime sooner than that. And they totally could. Who knows? Tony W. writes, did you hear Tiffany Smith will be on Supernatural tomorrow? I'm excited. Yes, I did hear all about that. It's funny because I just saw Tiffany yesterday. And I meant to go up to her and talk to her about that, the supernatural thing, but I just got distracted, so I didn't do it. But yes, I did hear about that. Super jealous. Super jealous. It's funny because a number of friends of mine have been in Supernatural, including this one girl, Julia Voth, who was in my movie, The Anniversary. It's funny because I'm sitting down watching Supernatural one time, and all of a sudden Julia pops up on screen. I'm like, holy shit. And I'm texting Julia, you didn't tell me you were in Supernatural. It's kind of the same way, like I'm watching Blacklist, and this other girl actress who was in my movie, The Anniversary, her name's Erin Cumming, and she was also in Spartacus, and she was in the Disaster Artist with James Franco, and just watching Blacklist, all of a sudden, there's Erin Cumming. I'm like, but a couple people I know have been in Supernatural, and I haven't. So anyway, yes, I'm very excited to see how she does on there. Let's see. Styler Manu writes, let me make sure I'm in the right place. Yes. Styler Manu writes, did the recent incident at the YouTube campus cause any operational difficulties for you and other content creators? Was service interrupted? I don't think so. No. Because I don't think, I don't think there's any one central hub for all the machinery of YouTube, but it certainly wouldn't be on a creative campus, I wouldn't think. So, no, and interruption of service is the least of our concerns when it comes to some idiot with a gun. The service interruption is the least of our concerns. But no, as a matter of fact, at least I didn't notice any kind of service interruption from a back-end point of view. I didn't notice anything like that. Other people might have, but I didn't. Swedish WB writes, hey, John, what's your favorite foreign language film? It would either have to be... No, I know what it is. The honorable mention would probably be Amelie. If you don't know what Amelie is, look it up. It's just a joy of a movie. It's great. But easily by a mile, my all-time favorite foreign language film. Oh, and the other honorable mention, one is Amelie, one is Infernal Affairs, which is the original Asian version of what The Departed was. A lot of people forget that Martin Scorsese's The Departed is a remake of Infernal Affairs. So I got Amelie and Infernal Affairs as my honorable mentions. My favorite forever, by a mile, foreign language film is Life is Beautiful, directed by and starring Roberto Benigni. One of the best movies ever made. And if you don't cry, you will cry at the end of that movie. I cried like a baby at the end of it. I saw Hell's Angels Bikers. You think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding. There were Hell's Angels Bikers in this movie theater in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. Sniffing. You can't help it, man. If you got a heart, you're going to cry at the end of it. That's my all-time favorite. I'm going to try to muscle through the last little bit here, guys. NPE94 writes, over under 50%, Infinity War tops 2 billion worldwide. It's a tall order. Because Black Panther, as ridiculously successful as it is still shy of 1.3 billion. Will Infinity War make 700 million on top of what Black Panther makes? It's a tall order. 50% is the exact number. I mean, that's it exactly. The over-under on 50%, I think it has a shot. I also think it may not. I'm going to take a push. I'll take the push on 50%. I think that's the exact number. If you were to set the number at 50.5%, I would take the under. It is a tall, there is a reason only 3 or 4 films in history? I'll say it's either 3 or 4. I want to say 3. Only 3 films in cinematic history have ever made $2 billion. Star Wars The Force Awakens, Titanic, and Avatar. It could be the next one. Let's put it this way. I'm not going to be surprised either way. I will not be surprised if it does. I will not be surprised if it doesn't. Because just again, think of the huge success of Black Panther and add 700 million more on top of that. That's what it has to do to get to that number. It's a tall order. There are some people out there saying, oh yeah, it's going to make 2 billion easy. It's like, I don't think you know what, that word does not mean what I think you think it means. I don't know that it's going to be easy. But again, a lot will have to do with how good is the movie. If the movie's as good as we all hope it is, then that really increases the chances. We'll have to wait and see. Jedi Knight and friend of Captain Soto says, I got the Black Series Poe replica helmet. So cool. Ooh, that would look sweet. I would love that on the shelf right there. That would look amazing. Austin Green writes, what's the most horrifying film you've ever seen? American Werewolf in London. I've never had a film scare me like American Werewolf in London. Not to be confused with American Werewolf in Paris. American Werewolf in London from the 80s. No movie's ever scared me like that. Jaws is terrifying. The other one that is absolutely terrifying to me is The Descent. The Descent is, I mean, that movie scares the shit out of you before any monsters show up. Like, but without any monsters, that movie is as scary as hell. As they're cave driving, like I had a hard time breathing watching that movie. I mean, so it ranks right up there. Styler Manu writes, take at least one day off per week to avoid burnout. I would love, honestly, like I go away to celebrate Anne's birthday and do one day without shows. I kid you not, guys. You would not believe some of the messages I get. Like I had this guy yesterday, just as an example, telling me, why, no videos yesterday. Don't you know the way you build a YouTube channel is to have consistency? If you want to build your channel, you better learn that. And I'm like, I work 7 days a week. And I also wrote back to him. I wrote, maybe this was really snarky of me. I shouldn't have written it, but I'm going to tell you what I wrote anyway. So I wrote back to the guy. I said, thank you for your advice on telling me how to build a YouTube channel. By the way, I have built 3 YouTube channels to multi-million views per month channels. How many have you built? So anyway, I shouldn't have said that. That was snarky. I was feeling in a particularly bad mood and I was ticked off. But I get people, whenever I miss anything, I get people like seriously calling me names, calling me lazy, saying like, oh, I can't rely on you, blah, blah, blah. And so it's tough to plan a day off. I should take a day off per week. I'm building to the point that at some point, hopefully in the near future, I will just take a day off per week and have a day schedule that I just take off. But it's tough right now. I will figure it out. The number Thor writes, Better Move, Dick movie, the original with Gregory Peck. Oh, or the remake with Patrick Stewart. I'm not familiar. I don't think I've seen either of them, to be honest with you. So I don't think I've seen either of those movies, to be honest with you. So I cannot answer that question. Motar Olin writes, hi, John. Have you heard anything about the Paige movie, Fighting with My Family? It was in the crowd when they were filming her debut against AJ Lee. Oh, you're talking about Paige the wrestler. Have you ever heard anything about the Paige movie, Fighting with My Family? I'll be honest with you, never even heard of it. So clearly not a wide release film or anything like that, but nope, not on my radar. Never heard of it. Although my brother-in-law, Ray, loves Paige. I think he's got like posters of her up in the garage. He loves Paige. Anyway, Daniel Quintana writes, still waiting on the top 25, 50, 75, 100 movies list. Never promised I would do it. It's possible. But again, I never promised I would do it. It's funny, just talking about somebody saying I need to take time off and somebody saying, where's these videos? It's kind of the reality I live in. Anyway, Adam K writes, Man was March a letdown, except for Ready Player One, every big film, Red Sparrow, Wrinkle in Time, Tomb Raider, Pacific Rim, disappointed critically and financially. Yeah, I liked Tomb Raider. I also liked Red Sparrow. Death Wish was a garbage movie. I thought Red Sparrow was okay. It was just, it certainly had a great idea. What they were going for in that movie, I think was great. It didn't execute quite as well, but I still liked it. I liked Red Sparrow. It wasn't great, but I enjoyed it. I also enjoyed Tomb Raider. Could not recommend Wrinkle in Time. Could not recommend Pacific Rim. And again, there was Death Wish, which I was looking forward to. And that just was awful. Just terrible. So, yeah, I think it's fair to say that our expectations were a little bit higher for this month. Again, Ready Player One, aces. But the rest of them, I was looking forward to Red Sparrow a lot. I was looking forward to Death Wish. I was looking forward to Tomb Raider. I was looking forward to Pacific Rim. I was looking forward to Wrinkle in Time. And only a couple of them to me were just barely okay. So yeah, you're right. It was a little bit of a letdown. Let's hope May is a bigger lunch point. Blockers is good. Not as good as I was hoping, but Blockers is good. So go and see that. And I'm going to go see A Quiet Place tonight. And we'll see how that all turns out. Okay, let's move on now. Florian Stumpf writes, which cliche annoys you the most? I hate the misunderstanding. What, like, do you just mean any misunderstanding? I don't know. But I've said this before, I'll say it again. My biggest cliche that I hate in movies is the not over the phone. I'll tell you at this place. And then you know that means that guy's going to die. Like our hero's at a dinner party. He gets a call from a scientist saying, I have found the secret to the villainous plan. And the hero goes, really? Tell me what the secret to the villainous plan is. Not over the phone. Why not over the phone? What's wrong with over the phone? Not on the phone. Meet me at Death Peak at midnight. Okay. And you as an audience member, you instantly, oh, that guy's never going to make it to Death Peak. That's he's dead, right? Like he's going to die in the next 30 seconds. As soon as you hear somebody say, I need to tell you something important, but not on the phone. Meet me in such and such a place. That guy's going to die. Or something horrible is going to happen, something like that. That to me is the biggest, laziest cliche that we see in so many movies. So many. Okay, last couple here, guys. Number Thor writes, did you ever see the horror movie See No Evil with the wrestler Kane? I love this horror movie. It's so bad, it's cool. Never watched it. Never watched it. I wanted to as well, but I thought, really, WWE horror film with Kane? I kind of took a pass on it. Sam Fisher writes, NCIS is not a spinoff of CSI. It's a spinoff of JAG. Also, the LL Cool J show is NCIS. No, I never said NCIS is a spinoff of it, but all those shows, even though narratively, they are all spun off of CSI. CSI is the mother show of that. All these other shows, like all the various CSIs, the NCISs, and there's even one or two other different abbreviation ones. They all come from CSI. They're not shared cinematic universe. I don't mean that in the term of spinoff, but it was the CSI and the phenom of CSI and that model of show that all these shows are modeled after. They're all modeled after CSI that way. So that's what I meant by that. I never meant to suggest it was a direct spinoff narratively. That's not what I was trying to suggest earlier today. Austin Green writes, MoviePass might be the cause of less 3D tickets too. Well, no, not really, because we've been seeing the decline of 3D screenings and everything like that before MoviePass became a thing. This has been a trend, an ongoing trend before it ever. Besides, MoviePass only accounts for like 8% of movie tickets in America. I mean, it's not that big of a thing yet. And again, if it wasn't for the fact, like maybe I'd agree with you, it wasn't for the fact that we've been seeing this downward trend of 3D popularity, then maybe you could say that. But the fact is, it has been a trend before MoviePass was a thing. So I don't think there's a cause and effect there at all. Pedro Garcia writes, in Blockers, did you see John Cena? You can't see me. Yeah, you can see him. I can see you, John. Sometimes a little bit more of him than I wanted to. Logan James Kynaston writes, would you rather see True Lies 2 or Wanted to? Oh, easy. True Lies 2. True Lies is my all-time favorite action film. I like Wanted a lot. But that's no question. No question True Lies 2 in a heartbeat. Okay. Final question today, because I just got nothing left in me, guys. Sorry, my voice is about to give out. The number Thor writes, beat werewolf movie that's not American Werewolf. I love the movie Dog Soldier and Benicio's Wolfman. What's your thoughts? I'll be honest with you, number Thor, I'm not quite sure. I'll be honest, I'm not sure what it is you're asking. And the number Thor follows up with thoughts on the show Nikita. I liked Nikita. I did. Actually, a buddy of mine, his name was Darren Conley. He used to do the movie blog podcast with me way back in the day. Those of you who've been watching me for a long time, you'll recognize Darren Conley. Darren Conley was an extra in at least one, maybe two episodes of Nikita. He was like a Russian henchman kind of dude. But my buddy Darren was in that show. So yeah, fond memories. All right, guys, that's all I got for today. I can't talk any longer. Thank you so much for being here today for Open Mic, guys. And listen, if you sent in a live question that I didn't get around to, don't you worry about it. It will be on the companion video tomorrow. Make sure you check out that companion video tomorrow. Your question will be on there. That'll do it for me, guys. I am serious. I got nothing left. Thanks so much for being here. My name's John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.